Hi everyone! Thank you for coming back to my channel, Crafts with Ash. Now, if you see that my lips are moving in this video, but it's not matching what I'm saying, it's because this video was originally a Facebook Live, but I thought I'd crop it down for you. So today we're going to make a really cute stacking pumpkin sign. All of these supplies, or most of the supplies, came from the Dollar Tree. So first you're going to need a big pumpkin, and this one says thankful and blessed, but we will be using the back. Then a jack-o'-lantern sign or just another size pumpkin, and this awesome 3D pumpkin. Now you don't have to use these specific pumpkins, just 3 pumpkins in 3 different sizes. Now that pumpkin right there, those 3D pieces come off. So next we're gonna need some scrapbooking paper. Of course, my scrapbooking paper came from Hobby Lobby. They were 25 cents each. So I just picked 3 different styles that I thought went well together. Look how cute that all is. Okay, so first we're gonna go ahead and cut the tag off of that smaller pumpkin with the 3D pieces, and then we're gonna go ahead and remove the raffia bow. After that, we're gonna go ahead and use a heat gun to melt the hot glue that's holding together those 3D pieces, because that'll make it easier for us to take it off. Now I also used a scraping tool to help with that as well. So let's get to work. All right, after you get all of those 3D pieces off, and they were a little stubborn, so I decided to go ahead and just Mod Podge the paper on the back. We're gonna go ahead and trace that pumpkin on one of our pieces of scrapbook paper. So for this first pumpkin, I use that really cute pumpkin paper. So you're just gonna turn it around and trace it on the back, and then you're gonna cut it out. All right, after you get your pumpkin cut out, we are going to go ahead and decoupage that scrapbook paper onto that wooden pumpkin. Now to do this, we are going to use Mod Podge. I got my container of Mod Podge from Hobby Lobby, but you can definitely get little squirt bottles of Mod Podge from the Dollar Tree. I'm just a big crafter, so I decided to go with the big bottle of Mod Podge. Now, if you're not really familiar with using Mod Podge, the trick is that you want to put a nice coat over the piece that you are going to decoupage, but you need to work kind of quickly because it does dry quickly. But make sure to get every part of the surface because you don't want any of your edges, or if this piece had corners, to flap up. So just make sure to do a very thorough job. Once you get your surface completely covered in Mod Podge, you're going to go ahead and take your paper and line it up with your pumpkin. Make sure to match all the edges, and then you're going to carefully take your hand and push it and rub it over the top of the paper to make sure that it's pressed down. Now watch out for bubbles. For bubbles, you're going to want to lightly push your fingers over them to get them out. Once you have it all pressed down, you can go back and kind of re-adhere some parts that maybe did not go all the way down, and just make sure that it's covered completely. For this next part, we are going to pay attention to those 3D pieces that we originally popped off of this pumpkin. I am going to faux stain these using the Waverly Antique Wax that I got from Walmart. First, I'm going to spray down the pieces with water. Then I'm going to take a piece of paper towel and carefully dip it into my antique wax. It does help if you shake it first, because then, for me at least, I like it when it goes in the lid so I can just work out of the lid instead of pouring it onto a plate and then there's no waste. So go ahead and take your paper towel and just rub it down onto the surface, and then it's going to act like a stain. You're going to do this for all 3 pieces. Okay, so after you have stained all 3 of your pieces, we're going to go ahead and put those off to the side, and we will come back to those later after they dry. Next, you're going to take another pumpkin, cut the tag off, and we're going to repeat. So we're going to trace it on a piece of scrapbook paper, cut it out, and Mod Podge the paper onto the pumpkin. For the second pumpkin, I use that really cute scrapbook paper with all the fall words. After you're done covering your second pumpkin, you're going to go ahead and grab your third pumpkin. Now, this pumpkin that I got here from the Dollar Tree had a little metal leaf on it and a raffia bow. So I went ahead and took off both pieces, again using my heat gun to melt the glue to help get it off. And then once I did get it off, you guessed it, I went ahead and traced it on my last piece of scrapbook paper, cut it out, and Mod Podged it on there. Now, after you're done adhering all the scrapbook paper to your pumpkins, you're going to want to go ahead and sand the edges. I'm using the sanding block that I did get from the Dollar Tree, and what this does is it takes away any of the excess paper that might be hanging over, and what you want to do is sand down in the down direction, and that gives it a nice clean cut. I don't know about you, but I love the antique rusty look, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a little distressing on the edges. So I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax and my favorite distressing brush that I did get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and dip it in the cap, brush it off a little on my paper towel, and barely tap the surface of this pumpkin. This is just going to add a little bit of dimension and distressing. Now, this specific scrapbook paper didn't need a ton, so I just went ahead and did the edges. Now you'll see in this one, I really focused on the edges, made it a little darker, and because the surface of the scrapbook paper is white, I did go ahead and go over the top and the middle of it as well. Don't forget to sand your edges so that way you have a nice clean cut. After you're done distressing your second pumpkin, you're going to go ahead and grab your last pumpkin, sand down the edges so it makes it a nice clean cut, and then you're going to distress that as well using the same method you used on the first two pumpkins. After you're done distressing that last pumpkin, you're going to grab those 3D pieces that we took off of that pumpkin originally because we're going to go ahead and glue them down. So arrange them on your pumpkin just like how you pulled them off and glue them down with some hot glue. After you have all those pieces glued down, you're going to want to make a bow for that pumpkin. I went ahead and grabbed some burlap that I had on hand, and I'm just going to make a simple refabbed bow. So what I'm doing is cutting up the burlap, and then what you saw me pull off was some of the edges, so that way it frayed the edges. And then I'm just going to customize my bow. I will show you the ribbons that I'm going to use, but I'm just going to lay out the burlap first in an X pattern. After I had all my ribbons laid out, I took some raffia and I just made a raffia bow. I made 2 bunny ears and tied them together just like you would tie your shoelaces as a kindergartner. After my bow was put together, I went ahead and took some scissors and just trimmed up all the pieces and made them all look proportional to each other. I also cut that red ribbon in the back at an angle to kind of make it a more polished, cleaner look. after I created my bow how I like it, I went ahead and hot glued that bow to the top of the pumpkin. I hot glued it right to the stem part of the pumpkin. After you have your bow hot glued onto that pumpkin, you're going to grab the other two pumpkins and now we're going to hot glue them together, stacking them on top of each other. So you're going to put the biggest one on the bottom, then the middle size, then the smaller size. Make sure to put a generous amount of hot glue on each pumpkin to ensure that they stay together and won't fall off. All right, there we have it, our large stacking pumpkin sign. What do you think? Now I did end up making a smaller version of the sign, which I'll go ahead and link right here. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, then jump on Facebook and follow and like the Crafts with Ash page. I will see you next time. Bye!